Welcome back to the HVAC Budget Channel. Today we have a really neat multi-tool I'm excited about. This is going to be the Victorinox Swiss tool. This will be the large frame multi-tool. So there's also Victorinox Spirit, which comes in several different varieties. And this will be the Victorinox Swiss tool without the scissors. So this retails on Victorinox website for around $169 with the leather sheath. So I actually was able to find a really good deal with this. And let's look at the sheath first. This is not leather, obviously. This is going to be the synthetic sheath. That's how it looks there. It's got the logo, and then it's got that sewn into it, and pretty much just a standard sheath right there. All right, so let's get into the tool. Now, this, in my opinion, is probably one of the only multi-tools that will actually give Leatherman a real run for its money. Most of the options, even from Gerber and SOG, unfortunately, don't give Leatherman that much competition. But not that they're not neat, but the Victorinox really out of the package is just a really well-built multi-tool. So when you handle it, you just realize it's a really heavy-duty multi-tool, and it's pretty comforting when you look at its implements and you realize they look like and they feel like they're built to last. So let's go ahead and look through several of these. I want to go ahead and just look at the outside tools here. One of the things I like about this is that when it's closed, you can access all these tools. So let's go ahead and we're going to run through here on each side and just take a look at these tools and then go to the pliers set. Now, one of the interesting things about this Swiss tool is that a lot of the nomenclature is going to be a little different than here in the US. So I'm just going to be using the terms that we're used to in the US, and it may not be specifically what Victorinox labels these as, but it's more what we would consider them as. So one of the first things we notice is the file, and there is a heavier duty grain and then a smaller duty grain. Now, I know some people complain. I do not believe this is the diamond file like Leatherman has, but it still looks like a pretty nice long reach file. It's not a tiny file like even some of the, I believe it's the P4 has, but it's a really long reach file, so that's pretty nice. And then we've got the knife. Well, this isn't the knife. This is going to be called the wavy blade, which we would consider the serrated blade. And you can see it's a little bit different there, but it's going to be able, well, let's see if it's able to cut paracord and so forth. Obviously, again, these tools are locking. You see, I really like those thumb studs right here for unlocking and locking. Those are really nice. So let's go ahead. There we go. Wow, that just cuts right through. That's pretty impressed, actually. So that actually works really good. All right, so we've got the file. We've got the wavy or the serrated knife on that edge. And then look at that nice Phillips screwdriver right there. That has a really nice long reach Phillips. So I'm pretty impressed with that. It looks like it has some good definition on the end there. And then also we have the awl. Now, again, this awl will not have a sewing eyelet, but it looks like it's a pretty nice awl for what you would need it for. And definitely it's a little bit different than in some multi-tools, but I like its shape, and it even seems to have a little bit of an edge on it for a reamer, and that looks pretty nice. Then we also have this medium or this small micro screwdriver, which again, in HVAC I use for thermostats. So that's really nice screwdriver there. I always like it when those are on. I know they're a little less heavy duty and they can break, but I still like to use those. All right, then we've got the saw. And this saw again seems to be I really like the definition of the blade, and it just feels really heavy duty there. Again, I don't do much sawing myself with these multi-tools, but for many people that is very essential, and I feel like you will not be disappointed with that saw. Really nice feature. Then let's go ahead and come back to this one. This is a little different tool, but it's going to be your can opener. And then it looks like it has a definition for a small screwdriver on the edge there. That's fairly normal tool. Again, really liked by some. And then we've got our knife. So I I don't really care for this blade. I grew up with a lot of dollar store, Dollar Tree knives, and obviously this is almost $170. It's definitely not that, but it reminds me of the fake cheap ones. So, but I'm sure it's probably a pretty good knife here. So yeah, it just cuts right through, really good. And I don't really have some paper up here with me, or we could cut some paper, but it seems like it has a really nice edge on it, and it seems like it's really, really nice for what you would need it for. All right, so we've got some interesting tools which will set this Swiss tool apart. So right here on the end, look at that. That's going to be almost like I think they label this as like your pry bar. That's going to be a really heavy duty tool right there. So that's really neat. I feel like that's very useful. I know Gerber has sort of a split pry bar, I believe, on the Gerber center drive, but I feel like that's a really nice addition right here on the Swiss tool. Also, you'll notice there's a couple notches here. These are for wire stripping, I believe. And then also there's a wire bending notch. So there's several different notches here for working with wire. And then we also have a chisel. Look at that, a chisel on the end. You don't usually find that built in. You can easily make a screwdriver bit of chisel by grinding it down, but it's really neat that you have that chisel right there. So then you also have, again, this wire bender and this cap lifter, bottle lifter as well. And that's a pretty neat tool there with that wire bender as well. All right, now this does have a mystery tool, and I tried to do a little research, and I wasn't really successful, but supposedly this has a wire crimper. Now I don't know if this notch right here is considered the wire crimper. I don't know if underneath these handles they're labeling that as a wire crimper. Both in the Gerber and the Leatherman, these are much more defined, I feel like, but it could be that's the case. So some of you who are very much more proficient and carry this tool every day, you'll have to let me know. This is one of my first forays. I've got a Midnight Manager, but into the Victorinox multi-tools. So I'm pretty impressed, but I'm not used to all the features. All right, so the pliers, what a nice set of pliers. Just really quality built, just seem to really, really work well. Very, very nice. So let's go ahead and talk about opening these up. Again, these are just really smooth. Not as smooth as the SOG. That has every multi-tool beat, but this is much smoother than a Leatherman, definitely. On my Leatherman, my Surge, Rebar, I think even my 300, it's getting a little bit better with age, but they sort of get hung up, and this opens a little bit smoother. So that's one of the things I like about this tool as well. All right, so you've got the wire cutting notch as well. So you've got the soft and the hard wire. One of my complaints, I guess, about this is that it's a very small portion. I feel like Leatherman is almost twice that size, and so that is going to be a little bit tough if you're going to be working with any heavier gauge wire. I know these probably aren't really supposed to handle that, but I like pushing my multi-tools to their limit, and that right there just is a very small notch right there. So overall, I'm very impressed with this tool. One of the things I like about this is that you can pull this out of your pocket and just everything's accessible on the outside. That is a very nice feature. Now, one of the things people are going to complain about is that this is going to be really hard to open with gloves. So if you're someone who needs to wear gloves with your work, you really need to open this with your fingernails. And even then, sometimes it's a little tricky because these are really packed in tight. So they're very nice, very well made, but they're definitely engineered to fit pretty snugly in there. So I think that's one of the negatives of this multi-tool. One of the other negatives is obviously you're going to have prints all over this all the time. It's a negative and a positive. I read a review and they mentioned, well, it's going to be a lot easier to clean. I suppose that's true, but even when you clean it, you touch it once, it's going to be dirty again. So that's perhaps a negative to some. One of the positives, definitely the biggest positive, is how quality this multi-tool is. Just extreme quality. I love its locking mechanism. Really nice locking mechanism here. I guess I should Let's close this again, open the file for reference, and just snaps into place, and it is just stuck in there, just not wobbling. It's just really nice in place. And then you just pull this down and it's unlocked and ready to go. So I love the quality of this tool. I definitely think this or the Leatherman is an excellent option if you've got a ton of money to spend. Again, I got this at an extreme discount, so I could afford it. But for those of you who have money to throw away, the Victorinox Swiss tool is definitely a great option. And it's not just throwing money away if it lasts forever. So if this is going to be your multi-tool you'll carry for years and years, in the end, it's definitely going to be a good investment. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.